This January 2026 meeting of the North Liberty Library Board of Trustees to order. First item on the agenda, additions, changes to the agenda. Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda? Seeing none, move forward to item 2, public comment. Seeing no one in the gallery, move forward to number 3, approval of approval of minutes for December. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for December?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing no nay, the motion to approve the December minutes passes. Item 4, briefing by director on library and democracy workshop.
All right, so I thought I would just share with you guys, I was in Cambridge earlier this month, a couple weeks ago, for a workshop called Libraries and Democracy at Harvard University's Ash Center for Democratic Renovation or Innovation. And I'm mixing that up with one of the people that put that on is from the Allen Lab for Democracy Renovation. So they invited me to attend, and the Allen Lab actually funded my travel for that meeting, which was really, really probably one of the, I say it every time I go to one of these cool meetings, but this was probably one of the best meetings that I've ever attended as far as like feeling that it will have a huge impact. So I wanted to share some of it with you guys. I didn't create like there's nothing to show you, but basically their thought was, and my good friend and colleague Shamichael Hallman, who is one of the people who works with the Urban Library Council, I thought he was the one who invited me, but he indeed was not. It was the Allen Lab, but Shamichael and another person at Harvard had been discussing the fact, they came to the conclusion that the people coming out of the public policy school at Harvard were not coming out with any kind of understanding about what libraries do to forward democracy in our communities, what libraries do in general. And so they decided to bring together a group of, well, first of all, they started working on curriculum. And then they decided to bring together a group of policymaker professors, professors from the Public Policy School, professors from the Simmons Library School. There were people there from Tufts University and Howard University. There was a person there from some country that I'm not going to, Latvia, and from a library, their national library there. So it was a really rich group of people meeting to talk about what that curriculum could look like for a one semester long course for public policy students who are going to go out into the world and be governors and mayors and, you know, run city councils in cities across the country. And so we broke into groups. They had the day just really well laid out. Danielle Allen, who runs the Allen Democracy Lab, came and talked about democracy in general and what it should look like. Shamichael talked about libraries, and then they brought it all back together by having us get into groups and really brainstorm the topics that they had kind of had on their table, including how libraries impact economic development, the role libraries play in community engagement, the role libraries play in democracy in general, and then what libraries do in terms of like social services work, which for most of us in the room who are librarians was a huge red flag because while we want to acknowledge that we do have to do some of that work in libraries and triage help for people who are in need of a bed or in need of, you know, shelter and housing and food, we do help with those things. Unfortunately or fortunately, it should not fall on us in all the ways. We know that there are social workers in libraries across the country doing the work, and librarians doing the work. So we want it in there. We just don't want it to look like librarians are going to take that role on, in addition to the other things we're doing.
Jenny, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Do bigger or like bigger city libraries have social
Yes.
workers in them?
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, there
that's
are a
interesting.
lot of them, and
makes-
some have 6 or 7 social workers working in their building full-time. We have had library science, or I mean, social work students, practicum students. We have one right now, in fact. Her name is Sierra, who is working with Nick on developing sort of a model for how we might have more of a resource hub for people coming in. What that structurally looks like could be, whatever it is online, but also just building up a better, bigger, bulkier thing. Right now, it's Nick Shimon, who's our adult services librarian, doing a lot of that work. So he's hosted this is his second practicum student, but we've hosted 6, I think, since 2019.
Wow.
So we've had one almost every year, and they've done different things for us. They've helped research the Mayor's Youth Council that's now in place in the city. They helped with that. They've helped with looking at how we might further our reach in finding people who aren't using the library, particularly the immigrant populations and things like that. So there's a lot of different models for what that looks like.
That's cool. Thank you. I just
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Most people don't, but we thought of all people, or Shemichael thought that of all people who do need to know, it's people that are going to be policymakers, in the public realm. So we had a guy who's running for Senate in Massachusetts. That was very cool to have him in the room, listening in and knowing that we do these things. He seemed like a very big cheerleader for libraries. So overall, it was a day and a half of work. The first night was more of community building, and we did have a guest speaker that night too. We went to the Cambridge Public Library in the evening and got to tour the library. They had tours going throughout the evening, and then we had dinner and listened to a couple speakers that night too. So I just feel that this has some really big implications, because what their hope is to develop the curriculum at Harvard and then share it out to the greater nation, to the country at large in some of the higher ed places. But the other piece that we've found that I think is really relevant is that librarians are also not learning these things in library school necessarily. They're not, the practical application is not always there. And they're not learning in library school the difference between intellectual freedom and freedom for information, the First Amendment. They don't understand the differences. So I did present on that this weekend for our part-timers, and we are developing a little bit more substance as far as how we speak to the public if they come in and ask questions about our collection or our policies, making sure that the staff is prepared for those types of things, and also knowing that the staff can just as easily give them my business card and say, seems like it would be a good thing for you to talk to the library director about, rather than feeling uncomfortable in those kinds of conversations. So what we discovered was we had a couple of Simon's students, which is the sister school to Harvard, from the library school there as well, taking notes, and it was really cool to talk to them too. But there should be a reflective course for librarians if we're going to, that is similar, but from the library standpoint of what this work looks like on a large scale. So I just wanted to share it with you because it's super exciting. I just to be at that one day thing, I can't imagine the future of it. It's going to be really cool.
That's very cool.
During that, you mentioned reaching out to more of the underserved communities, such as the immigrant population. That just sparked an idea or a question in my head.
Yeah.
I know that the record of checkouts isn't kept permanently, but is the list of people using the library something that could potentially be discovered in any sort of a court action?
Not unless they had a court subpoena, a legal subpoena to have our documents. But people who come in the library is public record.
Right.
I mean, I can take that database of folks that come in the library and utilize it for, mailings to share with the friends or whatever. So that's not the privacy comes from what they're checking out, what their uses of the library are.
Okay.
And it's been a thing too. I'll tell you, Hiawatha has a set of cameras. One of them overlooks the checkout desk, And the new director there, fairly new director there, was very like, this is not good practice, like to have this. But they did not, I don't think he prevailed with the policymakers in, in town. I think they thought it was fine. But it's a big deal. Librarians make a big deal out of privacy, a really big deal. And that's another component. We've had this discussion at multiple times at the national level with other librarians. Tom Fay, who's the director at Seattle, he teaches at the University of Washington. And he said there is just nothing preparing these kids coming out to understand that difference between privacy, intellectual freedom, and the freedom to read. Those three components of it. So I think we'll be well prepared here. I will ensure that the staff is ready. We're working on scripting. I told them that by the end of February, I'd like to have that set and ready for them to use if they want to. They don't have to, but there's always different levels of what they know. So, and I will share that slide deck with you guys to see. I didn't yet, but I will. So that is what I have for that, unless anyone has more questions.
Thank you.
Item 5, the library director report.
All right, budget is the first thing we have here. As always, the budget is in really a good spot. We are at just the most of the numbers we're at 51%, which is right on track. We're at 50 is this time of year, so we're not too far off with that. Or is it? Are we? Wait, what month is this?
It's still January, believe it or not, for the past year.
Right. And then go back up because it's easier for me to read this from my report rather than.
Feels like we've been in January all year.
Very true.
So 48% for personnel, 51% for the non-position things, which is like our travel and our mileage and things. 58% in the repairs, which you all know is our contracts. So overall, our budget is at 46%. So we're doing really well for this time of year. I think we'll see some spikes in programming and travel. We have a few staff who will be going. We have 2 staff going to the Public Library Association Conference, which is in Minneapolis. There has been conversations about that. I have spoken to the staff. They are not uncomfortable with attending. It's very insulated. It's, in a hotel and conference center right together. So I think at this point, we're confident that they'll still be attending that. And then there'll be I will be traveling to American Library Association Conference in June if our program gets selected. If it does not, the Chicago Public Library Director invited me to speak with him at a program there. If it gets picked, I will be going in June to where I think it's in Chicago. But other than that, there is the other travel that's happening is Nick Shimon was supposed to be in Cambridge today. They canceled that trip for weather, so that he's online this week for the Cortico grant, that $14,000 grant that we got around AI work. They are looking at rescheduling that for May. The hinge with that is that he was also invited. He and I were invited for one of us to go to a really fantastic conference called Building Better, about building community engagement in Seattle. And it was the same day that they're suggesting a remake for this one that was this week. If he ends up going, if that happens, that would be in Washington or in Massachusetts. So he can't be both. So I would probably pinch hit and go to Seattle. But those are both paid for by other entities. So we should be good there. Does anyone have questions about budget? I will move on then. So the update I did want to include this just because a lot of stuff happened all at once. While I was in Cambridge, our checkout system went down. It went down the day that my last day, and then they got it back, and they'd say it's fixed, and then someone would say, nope, it's not fixed, and then I would get an email. So the whole day I was just watching them struggle to get through it. Chris was able, our IT person was able to, he was fantastic to talk with Polaris and get them. They are a couple hours behind us, which is in some cases not helpful if it's in the morning, but also very helpful when it's later in the day. So we are hosted by I had to call him and say, can you please tell me this in terms of 5-year-old would understand. Basically, we are hosted by a server remotely, and that server was operating, but the host was having problems. So they have migrated us to a new host, and everything seems to be resolved now. And then we are adding a foundation directory. We have had it through the state library, and the state library discontinued the funding for that program. And we have been talking with Coralville, actually approached us and Iowa City about subscribing to that foundation directory to help our local nonprofits. And there's been some back and forth on that, and it sounds like the nonprofits would really appreciate us doing that and express the need of it. It will also help us. It'll benefit the library. We can go in and use it, although Nick said that he feels like some of those grants are a little loftier than what we are able to use. But he still said it's a good groundwork. So we're going to try it for a year and see how it goes. The nonprofits are just really struggling in our area, we know, and if this is something we can offer them as an extra service, we're going to do that because we have a lot of great partnerships with them. It is the one limitation that I'm really not thrilled about is that it's in-house only, so they have to come to the library. I guess in some ways that's cool, but then it's whether they will have time or the ability to get there to use it. We did make a huge decision this month to discontinue our physical magazines. Andrew came to talk to me about this. He said that because the usage or the loss rate has been really significant, he's like, I don't know if people just think they're free to take and they don't understand. They're all barcoded. We've never had this problem in the past, but all of a sudden, all of our magazines are disappearing. So there would be 1 or 2 of each magazine left, and basically, we can't even tell what kind of checkout rates are because the loss rate is so high that we don't have any kind of gauge. We do know that it's decreased because we have it online. We have the access online. We just decided for one thing, we've gone down to about 12 magazines from 30 to 40 magazines because they just aren't publishing them. There's a lot of them that aren't published anymore. Our magazine subscriptions used to cost over like a couple $1,000s, and they cost about $500 now. So we'll just put that money toward the online subscriptions. And we're talking about potentially getting a physical copy of one of the big national newspapers. We just haven't figured out which one. Some of those are even more pricey than having all those magazines, but we'll see what we end up doing with that. And then I just wanted to share with you guys kind of a great, we had a patron health crisis, which is not great. But what I wanted to share was the staff response to that because it was extremely impressive. It was also when I was gone, and we had a person come in and was saying that his shoulder was slammed, was the term he used, but he was very distraught and he had pain in his shoulder. He did end up collapsing, and Andrew was very quick to go down and get the AED from the rec center. Danny came out and helped make sure that that we had patrons going behind our circulation desk to keep them out of the area, and we had 911. They had everybody, the EMS folks there within just minutes, and just worked together very well. I was very impressed when I read the incident report about the situation. They did end up taking him in the ambulance, so it was good. And then Andrew later said that it may have been more to the point to grab naloxone. He wasn't really sure what the crisis was at the moment, but there could have been some underlying things going on that he wasn't aware of. But as far as we know, he walked out with the help of EMT folks, the emergency management folks. So I just was really impressed and wanted to share that with you all. Legislation. It's legislative session right now, and I have a friend who is better than any legislative tracker online. I get, I would say, almost daily reports from him about new bills that are potentially coming out. The one that I know for sure, there's a couple that we know are probably coming down the pike. They are not there yet, so I'm not going to report on those, but they're not great. The one that we do know that's been introduced so far is taking away privacy rights for minors. which obviously is a huge problem for us. The concern being that if a minor comes in seeking help, for example, because they're being sexually abused at home or something else is happening that they need to be protected from, they don't have that protection anymore if they lift this privacy, because parents would be able to come in and check their library accounts. And so it's a little bit concerning. We will just have to see. So far, we don't think that these library diverse bills are going to get traction, at least at the state level, but we're just not sure. Then at the federal level is a new bill, 6718 from the House side, taking, it's a Student Degree Act, which is actually great. It kind of solidifies or codifies the nursing degree and the education degree and some other degrees, professional degrees as being professional degrees. And then therefore being able to get more loan money. The one that's not on there is libraries. So we are a little concerned about not having that Master's of Library Science included in that. I did reach out to the Urban Libraries Council to ask if they had that on their radar. I have not heard back from them yet, but we will be monitoring that and doing our best to see if they could get added. And then the House of Representatives did release a budget proposal increasing funding for the Institute of Museum and Library Services. So that is a really great positive thing. It preserves some funding for literacy programming for schools and some other things. So that's what's happening so far. We'll see what else comes down the pike here in the next few weeks. The February 2nd, which is next week, I don't know if any of you have any interest, is Legislative Day at the Capitol for libraries. So they have meetings during the day. If anyone's interested at all in attending that, Jen and Nick are going to go on behalf of North Liberty, and they are also bringing Sierra, our social work student, wanted to go also. So they'll be going and talking with some of our local legislators. So if anybody's interested, I can certainly send the information about that day. It's actually a beautiful day. They have it in the law library. They do a meeting beforehand and kind of prep people, and then they have talking points available for folks to go in and meet with the legislators. So community update, our website design is coming along. Melanie did not put it in her report, so I wanted to just, because it's not going anywhere, I just wanted to share with you that we did get to see a sneak peek of it last week. It's looking really pretty. I'm very excited about it. We gave some feedback on some different things. And I don't know when they're planning to unveil it, but I know it's coming closer. It's coming together. So that's exciting. And Melanie has done huge amounts of work on it. So it's pretty fantastic. And then we'll be getting our contribution drive out later this month, I would hope within the next couple of weeks. And the friends will have offered to come in and stuff all the envelopes and get those ready to roll out the door. So by the end of this month, everybody will be receiving those. We are focusing this year just on the folks who donated last year and a few extra people that we think will be potential donors.
Out of curiosity, do you happen to know what the architecture is for the website?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. Novo is the name of the company that we're working with.
Okay.
I could not tell you. I can find out for you if you want to know.
It's just more personal curiosity than anything.
Pen will work. I'll find out. So then the only other things I have are then I talked to you guys about the Libraries and Democracy event, and then doing the intellectual freedom for the part-time staff, which I will send out to you guys this weekend. I think they enjoyed the training. I just had 8 small slides and talked to them a little bit about those differences between intellectual freedom and the First Amendment. And then I just wanted to share with you guys that there is a conference coming up in March that's free to attend. The majority of it is at the Iowa City Public Library, except for a keynote the night before. March 27th is the day a friend of mine, Tyler Hahn, who's coming from Cherokee, to present on a panel. The program is Cultivating Rurality. I am stoked about this conference. So I blocked the whole day. I'm planning to attend the evening session and then throughout the day go over and cheer Tyler on for one thing, but just also attend the other panels and discussions. It's just about working in rural communities and the impact of, serving our rural people in rural communities. I think it's going to be fantastic. So if anybody's interested in it, if you look up Cultivating Rurality Symposium, it's with the Obermann Center at the university. You'll find out more details. I have to find out how to register. I know it's free and open to the public, so I don't know if you actually have to register. And that is all that I have this evening, unless you guys have questions. And then other than that, I would just highlight a few things that, especially Nick's, the Teen Accelerator program, that's the Cortico grant, where he was supposed to be today and yesterday, and tomorrow. And then the Natalie Benway, oh no, not the Natalie Benway. Oh, I guess she didn't put it on there. Kelly will be hosting in February an online author event with a nationally known author that is really exciting, and she didn't put it on here, so I'm not going to be able to tell you anything about it, except it's really exciting. It's something about Black girls and magic, and it sounds like a super cool title, and I knew it would be right up Kelly's alley, so I sent it to her, and right away she jumped on it and said, yes, I want to do this, so it's pretty exciting. And then I think I know Melanie included a link to our new newsletter. I did want to point out this because it's really cool. So Melanie does the tree every year, which is our upside down tree that's in the corner. It's the Space Saver tree. Other people have said things like, is that a devil worshiping tree? And other odd things, but it's not. And we do we just make it a tree. It's just a holiday tree. We do different themes. She's done Wizard of Oz. She's done other fun themes over the years. And this year they did a Korean culture tree, a wishing tree. And what came out of that was a totally on-the-cuff K-pop Demon Hunter event that was uber popular. I think they had 40-some people attend and do all these fun things that Melanie lists here. But what I just love the connection there that happened and then the tree, the significance of the tree, and the traditions that it presents there. So I thought that was really funny. I guess she did include the website, but she didn't include that. She told me she didn't include that, but she did. So there it is. And I think that is most of the things. I would just point out in general the programming numbers and the cool programs that the staff are doing. Every time I read their reports, I am amazed. Absolutely amazed. And Andrew's reports are always fun anyway, too, as well, the circulation trends. So, does anyone have any questions about the reports? I would point out that we are up about a little over 7% in circulation from last year. And I can tell you from the sheer numbers of new patrons that we are getting on the daily, that our circ stats will continue to rise because our patron numbers are continuing to rise, and the counts through the door are continuing to rise. So it's pretty amazing.
How does that compare with North Liberty's population growth? Are we consistent in terms of growth and library patronage increases?
I would say that we are seeing a higher increase than the population, and partly because we're getting people from other cities too, and the rural folks. Our rural population, our rural checkout has gone from about 4% when I started as director to 11%.
Oh, yeah.
So about 11 years, over the last 11 years. In fact, they have a new person doing their granting, their funding formula. And when I sent the funding formula this year, she said, could you just explain? She's like, I'm not questioning you. I just really am curious why you think this growth. And what I really think it is that level of visibility that the staff has just upped their game so much. The increase of outreach and being out in the community and the visibility is really, I would say, what I would credit a lot of that to. And then just Andrew is really, really good at his job with collection. So. Any questions?
Item 6, policy review, library child safety and vulnerable adults.
All So Angela did send me some change suggestions, which I ran by Grant. He did not think we should include, I don't know why that's purple. I had a really hard time getting the comments to show up for you guys. But basically what shows up here is what Grant suggested as the changes to be made. And there's two different copies of it. The first one is the one that I have made the changes in. But like, I just could not get it to show the comments, and I couldn't get it to show the changes, the tracking in the document. I tried it 3 or 4 different times. I don't know why. It's never done what it was doing, but so I tried to highlight it. It did not highlight in purple when on my screen, so I don't know why it did that. And then the other changes are really just like lowering the case of recreation and aquatic centers and things like that. So the other changes are just grammatical, except that section 3A. And mainly that used to say something that is the policy of, and he said, you've got policy at the top. You don't really even need to have policy in there again. And just that where it used to say should remain with, it had some other statement in there that was about like the unruly kids or something. And he said, you can't really put the way you're wording that is not something that's a firm thing. So he suggested making this change. Oh, it's at the top. I'm sorry. That did show up. It's in 2A. So he said unwilling. Saying unwilling is just probably not a good use because it's hard to determine what's unwilling mean. So he said just say unable. Did anyone else notice anything or have any other suggestions?
I'm comfortable with these edits as reflected by the city attorney. Thanks for reaching out to him with those questions.
You bet.
Is that a motion to approve?
I move to approve. Yes.
Have a second?
A second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Hearing no nays, the Library Child Safety and Vulnerable Adults Policy is approved.
Excellent.
Item 7, discussion and possible action on upcoming meeting date.
So, I was going to write architecture down on here to check for you. So, my question for you is actually sort of personal, but also going back to saying that I could possibly be traveling in May. I am going on a couple-week vacation in May, an almost 2 weeks vacation, which would put me back the day of or the day after the board meeting. If I were to move the board meeting to the next week, we're at Memorial Day. If I move it back a week, I'm already gone. So my question to all of you is to ask you if you would consider not having a May meeting, because we can go without 2, and instead having a May meeting in July, which we've typically skipped, if that would work for the majority.
I won't be able to, but if it works for everybody else, I'm here for that.
Would that be July 20th?
Whatever that week is.
Still the third Monday?
Yeah.
I think that should work for me to do July instead of May.
Anyone have any concerns with that?
No, I can make that work.
Sounds good.
So we'd be canceling the May 18th, just to
Correct.
confirm. Okay.
It's our 36th anniversary. We skipped 35.
If
We're
the
going to Alaska.
25th is the absolute earliest that Memorial Day could possibly be, so
You know.
like, how's that Memorial Day? But yes. Okay. Item 8, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
We are adjourned.